Hello. So on this YouTube channel, I have been consistently trying to bring those people who've been achievers in their respective fields. So today I have Mubina Kapasi, and the face would have been a very, very recognizable face because you would have seen it on ET now. So she's a chartered accountant who has made it to media. So welcome to the show, Mubina. And it's a pleasure having you. And because chartered accountants typically end up doing audit, taxation, MIS, so that's the usual run-of-the-mill task. And you are someone who's made it to media. So last week we had Sonal Bhutra. She's made it to the CNBC, and you also followed a similar path. And this is very exciting to youngsters because they just want to do things which are non-conventional, extraordinary, and that is something which you've done. So I'll shoot a series of questions to you. So first of all, Mubina, you are a SoBo girl. And for the uninitiated, she's from South Bombay, which is like the posh area of Bombay. So how does it feel like growing up as a SoBo girl? How is it different from the rest?
Well, it's the same, that I can assure you. I mean, my parents, they were first generation entrepreneurs, so it's not like we came from some very old line of money or anything. So my beginnings were very humble, but it's not necessarily SoBo means the kind of connotation that it usually carries, because SoBo also is extremely big, and there are various parts of SoBo. But yeah, I mean, we had very humble beginnings, and my dad also worked very hard to reach where he is.
What
and
does
to
your
provide
dad do? What does your dad do?
So if my surname sounds familiar to any of your Mumbai viewers, it's because it is. He is Professor Kapasi of Kapasi Commerce Classes, which basically is an institution that teaches CA and commerce to students. It's based in, again, as you call, SoBo, South Bombay. So the reason why I said this is because my dad started the class the year I was born in 1990. And, I mean, he also went through, he taught at colleges, and he also did not think he'd become a professor. But he realized he was really good at teaching, and students would queue up, to learn from him, even though they were not in his class. And then he's like, you know what, let me just become a teacher. Why am I pursuing, why do I want to sit and do a practice? And then he started his classes with a bang, literally. I mean, you could ask any of your viewers who are in the 1990s. There was a beeline outside, Kapasi classes when it opened at Tarde, which is also, a part of South Bombay. And I would not see my dad from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. because that's the number of lectures he used to take in a day. So like I said, my dad's had really, long hours. He's burned the midnight oil, and that's where we preach, where we have. So because of that, I suppose when you have humble beginnings, you do tend to be very grounded. And any which ways, I think even if you've not had humble beginnings, I think the most important characteristic in anybody is humility. So, and that's something that my parents as well have taught me.
Oh, fantastic. So you're a daughter of a very, very famous CA teacher. Okay.
Yes.
So one childhood story that has left an indelible imprint on your psyche, on your value system. So as you grew up in Villa Theresa High School, so tell us about that one incident, because all of us have that one moment which is like, oh, I've realized this is something that I need to do in life.
So you know what? Interestingly, in school, I was quite a shy kid. I would not raise my hand for debates, elocution, poetry recitals, annual day concerts, and things like that. Because I would be like, you know what? I'm not going to be selected. Why bother? And I mean, even though I wanted to, like, that's for sure. But one fine day, there was this incident that took place when I was 10 years old, when I was in the 5th grade, where again, we used to have the principal or the teacher announcing that, okay, all those who want to participate in XYZ thing, raise your hands. And I would be like, you know what, forget it. I'm not going to raise my hand, and I don't think I'm going to get selected any which ways. So there were a couple of students who raised their hands and stuff, and my teacher just looks at me and she's like, Mubina, I want you to go for this thing. And I said, okay. And there was not a moment of hesitation in me. Of course, I got really nervous, but I said, okay, I will go, And I followed my principal, and she said that, okay, you have to go to this JB Pettit school, and you have to speak about the effects of the pollution that's on the environment, and of course why firecrackers should be banned. So basically it was around Diwali, and we had to promote why you should not be bursting firecrackers. And she said everything has to be planned by you. You have to write a speech, and you have to go and deliver it at the school. And I said okay, and I got really excited, and I diligently wrote down a proper essay. And I went and delivered it, and it was great. And when I came back, my teacher just sat me down. She's like, why do you not participate more often? You are great out there, and you should just go out and put yourself out there. And I'm like, you know what, actually it's kind of silly of me to hold myself back. And ever since then, I have taken part in a Bharatnatyam dance competition. I have become the Minister for Punctuality in my school cabinet. I have even, for that matter, in fact, participated in all the subsequent annual days, So I think from that moment, even in sports day for that matter, even though honestly I am not good at sports, but I'm like, no, I'm going to put myself out, and I'm going to, try out in the heats or in, the trials. So yeah, I mean, not that everything was a great success, but the point is, if you don't try, the answer was any which way is no. So you have nothing to lose if you're trying,
Yeah, and what is this Minister of Punctuality? So you have to ensure that students come up on time?
Yes, that's exactly what it was. So my school's cabinet was very different. I mean, usually in a school, you have maybe, a head girl or a head boy, and then you have maybe, house captains, or you have a prefect, and you have a class prefect. But my school, you could consider it was, I think, aiming for making a ministerial cabinet of its own. So just like you have, president, prime minister, and then you have, finance minister, and, railway minister, coal minister. We had a head girl, we had a sports minister, then we had house captains, vice captains, and then we had ministerial berths. So I was the ministerial berth. And, Minister for Punctuality was not as funny as Minister for Uniform, Minister for Neatness, Minister for Cleanliness. So those are the kind of ministerial posts as well that we had. And it was a very democratically done process, which was as well very interesting. You had to, the students would line up, and they would vote for who they want should take on a berth. So I was voted for Minister for Punctuality.
So which political party did you support?
My political party was actually that of a Rubik's Cube, because we actually had to even carry a symbol, by the way. We had to, we had to all go give speeches to a classroom, an auditorium full of students, and we all had to have a symbol. So it could be, a candle, it could be a book, it could be anything. So my symbol was Rubik's Cube, so you could consider that was my political party.
Oh my God. So then, as now you've told that, I was curious, so your dad has been a famous CA coaching. So was that the reason why you went into the CA route? And you're a first attempt CA from November 2011. So was it just following in the footsteps? Did your siblings also do the same?
You could say yes, that it was because I saw what my dad was doing at home. I mean, I had that little bit of familiarity with the concepts of accounts and, costing, obviously, because my dad was majorly a costing professor. But also because when in the beginning, when, the 11th and 12th, what we have, in Mumbai, what we call as HSC. So I picked commerce because I enjoyed accounts. I still enjoy accounts, in fact. I mean, I love going through the nitty-gritties of profit and loss and balance sheet and things like that. I love figuring out valuations and, things like that. So I was really good at accounts. That was one thing. And to a certain extent, I also enjoyed taxation. And I suppose, honestly, Anurag, it could also be because it's not just my dad who is a CA, but it's also my uncles who are CAs. And frankly, it could also be because of the lack of exposure to other professions. Now, if I'm being very honest, I don't have a doctor in my house. I don't have I didn't even have a businessman. I mean, my dad could be considered a businessman, but yeah, largely I come from a family of professionals. One's a lawyer, one's a CA, you know. So these are largely the two professions that I have seen in my house. And I think that also is something that I would like to tell your viewers, you know, that your profession that you choose is not just limited to what you see around you. There's a whole world out there. But again, you know, when I had to make my decision in 2005, 2006, I suppose the sort of exposure we had was a little limited compared to, you know, what 14, 15-year-olds have today. So maybe this lesson is something that they do not need to know. But, you know, you could consider is one of the reasons why I also picked CA, apart from the fact that I enjoy doing accountancy, I believe now could also be because of my lack of exposure to other professions and, you know, career possibilities.
I can tell you one thing, Mubina, because I have been interacting with thousands of students. So one, we had information asymmetry in our times when we chose CA. Today's youth is flooded with so much information that they are all the more confused. So that is the flip side of Google.
And is the real syndrome.
Yeah, that has become a big problem. So then you cleared CA. Then why did a potential journalist spend like 1.5 years in Deloitte? And I've also done my articleship from Deloitte. So that Deloitte means a lot to us. So you did control testing and limited reviews and year-end audit of shipping and port sector. Before then you decided. So tell us that. I think that was the most important career transition. So how did you first motivate yourself for 1.5 years doing the run-of-the-mill control testing and Deloitte AS2 if you would have those documentation software at that point of time? Then how did the transition happen? That would be quite an interesting piece in this conversation.
So, I mean, look, even when I was doing my articleship, at that time also, frankly, I enjoyed doing what I was doing. And I did my articleship at a small firm. I did not do it at a big four or even a medium-sized firm. I did it at a small firm where everything had to be done by you. I mean, I have literally gone over to the income tax office and filed individual returns and things like that. So I've done everything. I have gone to an income tax officer and have argued with him about why my client should get the refund and should not get the refund as well. So, you know, that was a great exposure I got. But also it made me realize that, you know, I actually like doing this. I like doing accounts, I like doing taxation. It sort of reaffirmed my sense in and every victory. I mean, Anurag, I'm sure you know, every time you go to the income tax officer and that guy actually gives you a stamp and he says, okay, here you go, I'm issuing you your refund, you the sort of job satisfaction you get is incomparable. And a lot of your viewers as well will sort of agree with that. So anyway, at that point I realized that, you know what, I'm really liking what I'm doing, so I'm going to continue with that. But then I realized that, you know, the greed of earning more money, if you could call it that, obviously. And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, everybody wants, you know, that big 4 tag to come on your CV or your resume. And hence Deloitte came into the picture. And again, that too was a great experience. I mean, I enjoyed it a lot. The only thing I didn't enjoy, and Anurag, since you as well were interning over there, you'll agree with me, was the long hours, because I'm one person that strongly believes in work-life balance. I don't want too much of work. At the same time, I don't want too much of life as well. I want both. So that was the only thing that really annoyed me. And I used to wonder, like, why can't we just work from, you know, 9 to 6 or 9 to 7 and wrap it up and keep our weekends to ourselves? Want to just keep everybody more motivated? And I've never got the answer to that till date. But yeah, again, you know, I enjoy doing that as well. It introduced me to very modern systems of doing audit. Obviously, in a small firm, I'm not going to get to use all those, you know, technologies and softwares which we got to use in Deloitte, like you mentioned AS2. But by the way I was working, we had shifted over to a new system. It wasn't even AS2 anymore. Yeah, that was a different experience. I got to learn a lot. You know, I delved into accountancy, and I mean, you know, I used to multitask as well a lot. So in fact, the shipping company, there was one company and then it had 4 subsidiaries. And I wanted to do the audit of all the 4 subsidiaries. Because I don't know, I just wanted to do it, and I just wanted to take more and more on my plate, you know. So because I suppose it may also be because of the fact that, you know, I sort of enjoyed doing what I was doing, but it may be because of the long hours, and it also may be because of the tendency of the big 4 firms to sort of keep you where you are in terms of your clientele. That may have led to a bit of a burnout. So, you know, if you are doing XYZ company and you have got the hang of it very well, it's in their interest to just let you be with XYZ company and not move you, because for
And the
obvious
client
reasons.
also wants you to come back, because they say that
Come
if a
back.
new guy
Exactly.
comes, I'll have to explain the whole thing again. But they're not
Retain
seeing
the
from
guy.
the individual's perspective. That's one major challenge.
Exactly. It's a major challenge. And I kind of get it. I mean, I understand, to be honest, if I had a practice and if I had, interns under me or employees under me, it would be in my interest, my client's interest as well, that, what, if you're working with this company, then you work with this company. But of course, I was not the employer. I was not the client. I was an employee. And, after a point I said, okay, okay, this is not happening. And either my hours need to be cut down or I just need a change in, environment. So what I did was that I just came across this course of business journalism that was sort of being offered by BSc. And I went through it, and, my parents and, my friends also said that, you have this, what you call as the gift of the gab. You can keep talking for hours. Maybe it could be a good fit for you. So, I forgot to add one thing, Anurag, actually. There was another incident that happened when I was in school. My aunt had this tape recorder which could record. You put an empty cassette and it could record. It was like one of those, something that, your new age viewers will not be familiar with, basically, but you know what I'm talking about. So I found that tape recorder, and I pressed the record button, and I started talking about, the topic was, there was this girl band called Viva, and about how they broke up. And I started talking about that. And, I just went on talking for 15 minutes. I could talk about how that girl band broke up and which girl member it was because of. So it was just an indication that, I can talk and I have the gift of the gab. And even if there's breaking news or anything like that, I will be able to continue talking. So that's the reason why I decided, business journalism is a great concoction of what I like. That's finance, accounts, P&Ls, balance sheets, and something that, I think I'm good at, and that's communication. So I took that course. I of course quit Deloitte. Next thing I jumped onto that course. The course offered me an internship at CNBC TV 18, and that's where my journey into, media began.
Oh, fantastic. And yes, you have always had a gift for the gab. I think at Deloitte, you also won a contest where you worked on strategies where Airtel would have increased their revenues. And today, in such trying times where Jio has come in, so you won some award there, right? That also reaffirmed this fact that you were a cut above the audit guy, at least.
So, again, Anurag, remember when I was telling you, there was a period in my life in school when I did not raise my hand for anything. That completely changed after, a couple of incidents triggered it. This was as well one such thing. You get these mailers, right, from your company saying that, there's this contest and there's this and there's that and things like that. These companies are always organizing things. Deloitte as well organized something. I suppose Bharti Airtel may have been their client in the consultancy department, and I saw this mailer. And, I'm like, I can definitely think of a couple of ideas, for them to generate new revenue streams and things like that. So, I just sat down and I started typing the ideas that came to me, and I just sent it to them. And frankly, I did not even think that I'll probably get a response or anything, because I thought there may be so many people, Deloitte has like thousands of employees. But yeah, I got the award. I did get the award. I got a couple of goodies from Deloitte itself. I got a mug, and I got, I just got a mug, frankly. But, and they gave me a little certificate as well, because it was an internal competition, right? It was to show their client that, look, these are the ideas. So I'm still, maybe I've not studied Airtel enough to check if they have actually deployed my ideas, but I'd like to know that they did.
That's it. So then you transitioned to media through this internship and CNBC. Then how did it start? But then this would have been a difficult transition, a risky one where you would have goosebumps. So Mr. Kapasi would have your dad. How was his reaction? Because he would have seen his daughter moving out of the traditional path. So how did that transition happen?
So Mr. Kapasi was completely fine because he's always taught my brother and me one thing way before the movie Three Idiots even was released. And he said this one thing, that I don't care what you all do, whether you want to become a DJ, whether you want to become, a CA, you want to become an engineer, you just need to ensure that you're good at it. Because if you're good at it, and if you basically chase excellence, everything else will follow. Success will follow, money will follow. So I was lucky that my parents were completely supportive of whatever I wanted to do. And I think that's very important. You need support from your parents, from, you know, your if you're married, your husband, your in-laws as well. That is something too that I've got complete support. So that was mercifully something that I did not have to worry about. And yeah, it's a very tough decision, mind you, because you're moving. And in the beginning, of course, you're not going to, you know, just walk into a media house and be like, yes, give me a balance sheet and give me an annual report, and I will tell you whether you should, you know, sort of, if this is a good company to invest in or not. You have to pay your dues. So I actually started off by making graphics and viz. I was in the production team. After a lot of persuasion and, you know, and I think after a point, even my boss realized that maybe she can do more than what she is doing right now. I was moved to reporting. And there I used to track financial scams and financial crimes. So the first case that I got in my hand was actually because I came from a CA background. They gave me the Vodafone tax case, that big transfer pricing case of 22,000 crore rupees, the tax case that was about. So boy, studying that was a nightmare because there were multiple cases. Transfer pricing was something that I'd actually never worked with, so I had to sort of relearn all of that. I used to go down to the ITAT office at Churchgate. I used to run around, you know, from the high courts as well, because the second case that they gave me to track was the NSEL commodities scam, which was another 5,600 crore case. So that was completely different. It was everything but a desk job. I used to be at high courts. I used to chase lawyers for bites and interviews. I used to do links. And that also is actually a very interesting story. I thought that I'm never going to be able to do a link. But then one fine day, there was some breaking news with respect to one of the cases I was handling. And the next thing they call me and tell me, Mubina, mic up right now. You have to do a live link. And I said, I have never done this before. I mean, I have never been on air before. And I thought, this is it. This is the end of me. And I think they're going to kick me out once they will see how horrible my link is. And, you know, all of my confidence had gone out of the window. Whatever I had attained for myself in the last 10 years, I think at that moment had gone out of the window. But I did the link. So by the way, a link is when you go on TV for a minute or two and just apprise the viewers of the news at that point. So let's say, you know, Nifty has crashed below 9,000, just hypothetically. Let's hope that doesn't happen again. But yeah, the Nifty has crashed below 9,000. So the reporter or the researcher just goes on air, does a bit of a link, and, you know, comes up back out. You're not an anchor, but you're doing a hit with the anchor.
Yeah.
So
joining from ground zero is Mubina, something like that.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. So at the Bombay High Court is Mubina Kapasi, and, you know, Mr. Anjani Sinha has just been arrested. Mubina, take it away. and those words came in my ear, but I mean, I thankfully did not freeze on air. I just spoke for a minute, and then I said, okay, this is done. And then I checked my messages. I checked my email. Has anybody said, Mubina, that was horrible, Mubina, oh my God, we're just taking you off field, and, you know, you just come back and do production and things. But there was nothing. On the contrary, in fact, and this was a big motivator for me, Shireen Khan messaged me saying, you know, strong, sharp, confident, Mubina, you're a natural, keep it up. And that was, I think, I will never forget that day. I'll never forget that email, because the fact that Shireen Khan, I mean, that's a name that everybody knows, right? Shireen Khan has emailed me something like this was, I think,
that was your Mubina moment.
That was my Mubina. Yeah.
So Mubina,
I think it was also a testament, right? That you're good at, I mean, that you should continue down this path, I suppose.
Yeah, Mubina, because the word Mubina means success in Arabic. So this was your high point in your career. And
it was my Mubina moment. One of my Mubina moments, yes.
Yeah, the first probably in the media industry.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So yeah, so you were kind of being a criminal journalist in some way. So you had to chase the NSEL.
In a way, yes.
In a way, yeah. So, and then you got more of screen time in the subsequent part of your career. So a lot of people would feel that media is all about going there and being the Shireen man from day one. It's not like that. So you really need to, as we speak, that I can visualize you running around High Court and those densely populated places.
Yeah.
There would be so many journalists vying for that same, we broke it first on CNBC, we broke it first on this channel.
Exactly.
Everyone,
you know exactly, you're getting the drift, yes.
So, yeah.
First on ET, first on CNBC, it was always a struggle about the fastest fingers first as well, because the minute the news, the minute the judge announces something, you have to text it that, oh, okay, this is what has happened, and you text it to the ticker team who would flash it. So it was literally fastest finger first, honestly.
So then you then transition to ET now, and now you present this 1 hour long personal finance show called the Money Show. Tell us more about that.
So, again, I owe so much to ET Now's managing editor, Nikunj Dalmia, who, again, I mean, he saw something in me, which I think even I did not see in myself before. But he often tells me, Mubina, I saw you, and in 3 minutes I had made up my mind that I'm going to hire you. I don't know what he saw in me, but he saw something in me. And, he pushed me a lot. In 6 months, he made me an anchor, in fact, at ET Now. He motivates a lot. And again, I took on a lot on my plate. I tracked commodities. I tracked, metals, mining, FMCG, because coincidentally, there was one of our researchers had quit. So her sectors had come to me. And, she was one of the senior researchers, but they said, you know what, let's just give it to Mubina, even though, I mean, I did not have so much exposure to the stock markets. But gradually, I did pick up a lot of reading, a lot of talking to people on the phone, a lot of talking to analysts, etc. as well, because what you do in research is not necessarily very bookish. It's not about reading annual reports and balance sheets. It's also having your skin in the market, like knowing what the chatter is about. That's also very important. And again, every budget, I think every budget, that's released in Feb, I had a lot to contribute, especially in the direct tax portion, for obvious reasons, because my CA background sort of did help. And because of that bit, because I had so much familiarity with taxation, I suppose that's the reason why I got this opportunity to sort of, take charge of the personal finance bit, for ET Now. And then gradually ET Now decided to introduce a 1 hour. So it started off with a half an hour daily personal finance show, but then, Nikunj said, you know what, let's just make it 1 hour long. So I was, again, very nervous. I said, how can we find content on personal finance every single day for 1 hour? But again, Mr. Dalmia and his motivational speeches and his motivation sort of made me think, you know what, I mean, he has so much faith in me. I've got to do it, and I've got to push myself and find content. And we did. It's been now 10 months. Yes, it's been 10 months now that we have been running this personal finance show. So the theme of the show is basically, we talk about mutual funds. We talk about even simple things, not just complicated things like insurance and mutual funds, but also how you can save money. We launched this campaign called #TMS Savings Challenge, where we challenged people that every week in your daily decisions, you take simple steps that will help you save money. So let's say today, you just made your coffee at home and you did not go to Starbucks and buy a coffee. So that's 200 rupees saved. You did not, order from outside. Instead, you took the simple meal that was cooked at home as your lunch, in your dabba. That's another 200-300 rupees saved.
So then, for the last 2 months, we are saving a lot of money. COVID shut down.
Oh yeah. That's for sure. That's for sure. But again, thanks to Swiggy and Scootsie, I think that may have been reversed as well, because the cravings that everyone's been having now to, indulge in a little bit of outside food, I'm a little worried that, that all those savings may have been obliterated. But that was something as well that we do on the Money Show about, how to save money, how to spend it as well more efficiently. So we have something called a Spend with TMS, where we tell viewers that, okay, you know what, there's a new car in the market, but is it worth your money? So we bring on board, Hormis Sorabji, who's from Autocar, and he sort of says that, you know what, I like this car, it's good on fuel efficiency, it's good on XYZ, but I don't think it's good on this, and I don't think it's value on money, so don't waste your money. Or it could be the other way around. And we do this for real estate, we do this for travel, and we do this for even gadgets. So, okay, is the latest iPhone worth your buck? So it's every angle of personal finance, not just investing money. It's also about saving money and spending it wisely.
Wow, this is like surreal in terms of you're doing so many things, like an auto show and a mutual fund show and a real estate show, all bundled into one.
Yes, all bundled into 1 hour every day.
So how welcome are chartered accountants or commerce graduates in the media industry? How easy it is for someone to get in? So you said you went in through an internship route through the
Yeah.
course of BSc. So for those, because this is a very exciting career, given a choice, so many would just jump over and want to exchange seats with you. But then, and what is the flip side of this career? I mean, the little dark unknown secrets of this media industry, the stress, or the only what do you think could have happened,
So,
right?
So Anurag, media is split into two. Obviously, there's what we do, that's business news, and then there's of course even general news. I think the benefits, I suppose, journalism as a career. When we talk about journalism schools, to be honest, they were just introduced maybe 15 years ago or 20 years ago, whereas newspapers and journalism as a whole has been existing for more than 100 years. I mean, Times of India is 175 years old. But the concept of having an education in journalism, at least in India, via the Asian College of Journalism and all of these institutes that are there, is still new. It's only 25 odd years ago. This is just my guess, but it's new. So from what I've understood, in ET now itself, whether it's in the research team or in the reporters team, it's not necessary for you to have a journalism background. You just need to have, obviously good oratory skills. You need to be a good speaker, and you need to have the knack of being able to understand, news very well. You should be able to understand that today, if the finance minister takes XYZ decision. For example, today itself, the finance minister, on Sunday, she came out with this announcement saying that I'm going to be hiking, the allocation to Maganrega. What does it mean? It means it could have perhaps an impact on the FMCG sector, because you're talking about more jobs to people. So you should understand what is the cause and effect. What is the impact of news on individuals' day-to-day lives, and also on companies and stock markets. So you should have the knack of the news, and you should have good oratory skills, and of course, good networking skills. From what I have understood, that's something that, media houses are looking out for more than, I hope journalism schools are listening to me right now, but I suppose that is something that, would be of great value. Just the knack of being able to understand and process news and the value of news. That's extremely important.
What's your typical day at work, and what are those unknown secrets of the media industry? Your highs, your lows?
Yeah. So typical day of work. Well, first thing in the morning starts off with reading the pink papers. All the pink papers. Going through Twitter and seeing what the buzz is. Sometimes going through WhatsApp groups as well, though I frankly don't rely too much on WhatsApp groups. But yeah, going through all of the papers, reading the headlines, going through Twitter and seeing what the latest headlines are, because nowadays Twitter, of course, is the new mode of information. And then, of course, when you start off at work, it's about seeing what's impacting your sector, what's impacting the shows as well that you handle. So I'm one of the few people that has a show completely to myself. So I have to also see which headlines could actually be worthy of being taken on the show. So for example, a couple of days ago, there was this news piece where the finance ministry decided to discount the lockdown days from the counting of considering the residential status of individuals. So that is something that is worthy of being taken on the money show. So basically, again, just trying to understand what's newsworthy and what's not. And then, of course, trying to get guests to come and speak on the show. So for example, if let's say JSW Steel has bagged a big iron ore mine, then I would like to try and, bring Mr. Sajjan Jindal or Mr. Seshagiri Rao to talk on the channel about that, about the importance of the mine, about how it would help the company, so on and so forth. So, I guess your day starts with reading the papers. Just keep getting, waking up in the morning, see what the Dow has done, what, the S&P has done, what has Donald Trump decided to tweet today, how oil markets have moved, etc. And I think till the end of the day, that's what we are doing, just ensuring that we've not missed out the news. So I think that sometimes can get tricky, because news is now happening all the time, 24/7. That I think could be a bit of a negative. But again, if you enjoy news, you won't mind it. But the fact is, you should know what's happening all the time. That will keep you one step ahead. And I guess it'll also give you a bit of an edge compared to maybe your colleagues in the media industry. I think but the one positive I would say in business news is that relatively the working hours are not that bad as opposed to general news. Because the markets are shut on Saturday, Sunday and public holidays, you do sometimes tend to get the weekends and the holidays off. I think that's one upside to business news. That is not the case, of course, with general news. I mean, we do know that there's, God forbid, any sort of incident that happens in India and journalists have to burn the midnight oil to get the news, to people. And because now television is what it is, where anybody can tune into television even at 2 a.m. in the morning to get some update on anything that's happening, you need to have something running. So I think that perhaps would be, I suppose, a bit of a flip side. But, Anurag, again, I say, when you really enjoy doing something, you wouldn't mind even waking up at 1 a.m. to sit and report on something. I think if you enjoy doing something, you wouldn't mind doing it. I would put it that way. Of course, it does get on you sometimes where you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I just want to throw in the towel and I'm done. I just want to retire. That moment, I'm sure, Anurag, even you've had many times. Everyone's had that, I suppose, at one point. But yeah, I wouldn't call that a flip side. I would just call that momentary loss of, stability in your mind while doing your work.
Perfectly well described. So Mubina, as we now head towards the winding up questions, so I have a couple of, in fact, 3 questions. So one is that if you were to rewind life, what would you have done differently? What would be your advice to Mubina at the age 16 now? So Mubina is what, 30ish now? What would be your advice?
Yes, I am almost 30. Let's just put it that way. I'm not going to tell you my exact age. But yeah, I am almost 30. In a couple of months, I'll be 30. But yeah, to the Mubina at 16, I would definitely say, just go out more, try new things. And so, there's one thing that I feel I wanted to do, but I did not do. I don't even know why I did not do it. I mean, I mercifully, by the grace of God, didn't have the resources to do it, but I don't know why I didn't do it. But I wanted to go abroad. And, I wanted to sort of live independently. I wanted to see the life, what it's like abroad, because I think that's extremely important to do. I would strongly recommend everybody, all the viewers out there, that if you get the chance, if you're blessed with the resources, if you can, do travel. When you're 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, these are great times to travel. I would strongly recommend everybody to take at least one backpacking trip after you're 18 with your parents' permission, of course. But I would strongly recommend take that one backpacking trip, for a month, for 2 months, for 3 months. Believe me, you will come back with a different perspective to life. I have done that. My backpacking trip was only 15 days, to be honest. So I don't even think you can call it backpacking, but I decided to rough it out. I stayed in a hostel. I met different people, and the kind of people you meet, it sort of widens your horizon. I mean, you realize that the world is not limited to what you are living, that, okay, you get on a train and you go to work and then you come back and then, it's not that what we sort of say, eat, sleep, repeat. There's a whole world out there. It changes your perspective, and it also widens the possibilities of what you can do with life. Believe me, in today's day and age, there are so many opportunities out there of what you can do with life. And I think if we do not widen our horizon, we'll never be able to realize that there's so much, there are so many options out there in terms of your career, in terms of everything, in terms of the way you live life as well on a day-to-day basis. But yeah, I think at the age of 16, I would definitely had like to travel a bit more. And again, it's, I know it may sound a bit, it's totally dependent on, of course, your resources. And if you're able to do it, that's one thing I suppose I would have as a regret, that I did not use that time to
travel. Backpack, but on a backpack and just travel. Yeah, that could be quite an experience. I mean,
and frankly, Anurag, let me tell you one more thing actually. If you are going backpacking and if you're going maybe in an Asian country, it's not that expensive. So, if you guys are working and CAs, well, they do, tend to make a little more money, I suppose. It's really not that expensive. So all the more I would recommend all CAs out there working, whether you're in practice, whether you're working in a company, take those 15 days off and go live in a hostel. You'll have to rough it out. It'll expose you to totally different things. Like, for example, sleeping in you know, a little mattress on a tree house. That's something as well that I have done. But it really widens your perspective and horizons. And it just makes you appreciate everything a lot.
And that too for a SoBo girl. So, you know, quite... All right. So, you know, because you are on screen and therefore you need to look fit, agile, you can't be pot-bellied and come on screen. So what do you do for fitness and what's your unwinding strategy?
You know, Anurag, thankfully, you do not need to be, you know, from chest below, you do not need to worry about your looks. And you could be wearing pajamas and you could go on air. It does not matter, because what's visible is only, you know, till what my screen is. So, and frankly, Anurag, like I told you, I'm very bad at sports. My fitness regime is out the window. I eat anything. I don't take care of my health at all. And I think I'm going to regret this. Maybe, Anurag, when you'll take my interview 20 years later and you'll ask me, oh, what you wish you had done at 30, I would say I would have been a bit more healthy. But yeah, you need to take care of your looks at the end of the day, whether you like it or not, and how much of an activist you are, that no, you know, I mean, I look good as is and I don't need to dress up and stuff. At the end of the day, it is a profession that requires to be presentable. So that is important. You'll have to invest a little time every morning on how you look. It's something non-negotiable, at least for now. And I hope that will change going forward. And it's the content that will matter more than the presentation. But I think, you know, all of us do like to look at something nice, I suppose, you know, on television. So, but yeah, I think it's non-negotiable at this juncture. You need to ensure that you take care of at least how you look from this part. That's important. You can be dressed in pajamas and shorts for all you care at the bottom.
All right, wonderful. And you do Bharatnatyam. Do you continue with that? You're a trained classic dancer.
I did not, unfortunately. I did not continue Bharatnatyam. I suppose I just got interested in different things then. I got interested in doing different dance forms. I mean, I still absolutely love dancing. That's not to say that, you know, I don't dance anymore. I love dancing, but when I dance, I don't want the discipline and the hard work that Bharatnatyam does entail. But yeah, I did do Bharatnatyam for a good 6 years. I finished 5 levels of Bharatnatyam. There are 7 levels, and at the 7th level, you do an Arangetram, which is like this huge performance in front of your, you know, your family and your friends and your guru. But I did not do that. I stopped at year 5 because then I went into college, and, you know, once you go into college, it's like, oh, you know, I have so many more friends and I have so many more activities to do, and oh God, life is so good. Now, why do I need to do Bharatnatyam? And again, my mom let me sort of leave Bharatnatyam. Then she said, okay, fine, you know what, now you're no longer under my control, so fine, just leave Bharatnatyam. So I just sort of left it. But I mean, frankly, maybe I was not that interested in it either. So I did not bother really pursuing it. I am learning French though right now during the quarantine, and I'm really enjoying that. So yeah, maybe Anurag, the next time we do the interview, I'll throw in a few French sentences.
So Mubina, I'm going to show this 5 levels out of 7 levels thing to my daughter because she's 7 years old and I'm training her in Bharatnatyam. So I hope she can at least crack that.
Don't show her my video then.
So at least she'll learn the 5 levels, and then I'll take her to a different person for an inspiration. I'll say, now you can junk Mubina. Now you can look up to this. So final question, Mubina, your final couple of lines of advice to people who are watching this channel, and that's it.
Okay, so my final advice is that don't be fearful about making changes in your career. You know, it's never too late to learn something new. Even let's say if you are 10 years into, you know, the job that you are doing, or the, you know, if you are in your practice and the job that you are doing, you're 10 years into it, and you say that, oh, okay, now it's too late. I mean, yes, I did want to do something else, but now I'm 10 years into doing CA, so now it's too late to do something else. You know what, the fact is that we as CAs, we have a very I mean, maybe it may not apply to all, but I think it applies to me for sure, and to a lot of my family members, and to many other CAs as well that I've met. We do have this frugal mindset, which means we have the tendency to be careful about how we are spending our money. We have a good piggy bank with us, because I would say we are better off with money than other people. So if you are a CA, I'm pretty sure you've managed to save up a lot. If you have managed to save up a lot, you can take risks with your career. Don't be scared about it. Just don't, of course, take calculated risks. I mean, if you have an oodle of responsibilities, it does not mean you just throw caution to the wind and, take off and, go settle down in the Bahamas and open a cafe over there. Of course, I'm not talking about that. You have to take calculated risks. But don't be scared is what I'm saying. And, if there are parents as well watching, I would like to tell them that if your son or daughter tells you that, listen, I'm not being able to clear CA and hence I want to, move on to do something else. If they're not being able to clear CA for whatever reason, let them. There is no point if you could call it, wasting your time thinking that, okay, I will clear it in the 8th attempt or the 9th attempt. Let them move on. Let them pursue what they think they want to do. And today there are ample resources, like we talked about, to help you discover what you're good at and what you could be successful at. Go ahead and pursue that, and yeah, that's all. Just don't think that, you cannot. Also, one more thing, Anurag, actually I forgot to mention, after I joined CNBC, I actually took what you could call a gap year. For about 7-8 months, I did not do anything. Again, I had a good amount of savings with me, so I could afford to take that risk, but I was ready to take it till I don't find something that I like, which was basically doing what I am doing right now. I was ready to take that risk. So don't compromise with your career, because you have another 40-50 years of doing the same thing. So, and that's a really long time. If you're not enjoying what you're doing, you're really going to be miserable, and you're going to make your family as well miserable because you're living with them. So just take the risk. If you think it'll make you happy, just listen to your heart and take the risk and make the career transition. Don't think you've invested too much, etc. It's fine. I mean, you have a long career life. If you have a good life, you have 40-50 years of doing the same job. It's fine if you change your careers. That's it.
Fantastic. So thank you so much, Mubina, for coming on the show. And I do not know how it's serendipity that makes me stumble upon such profiles, and I'm sure the audience is going to just love it.
Thank you for inviting me. I hope it was valuable for your audience.